This week's episode of Naruto Shippuden featured what I believe to be the best action episode of the brand new Chunin exam. Rock the OG Lee versus Shira of the Hidden Sand Village. A battle between two taijutsu masters, so you know you're gonna get a lot of badass hand-to-hand combat in this week's episode. Now, I want to stress, this week's episode was not perfect. There was animation and artwork flaws, and frankly, I don't believe the episode really did live up to its full potential. This could have been one of the greatest action episodes of the entire series. Despite that, I still think it's really entertaining and features what I believe to be one of Rock Lee's greatest battles. What I especially loved about this episode is that Shira himself has his own version of the inner 8 chakra gates that he does unleash in this week's episode, so you're gonna get to see Rock Lee going crazy, Shira going insane, lots of great hand-to-hand choreography, shit exploding, running up the sides of mountains. This was a badass ninja battle that must not be missed if you are a fan of the Naruto manga series or you've been following the Naruto anime series. So let's just talk about some of the highlights of this week's episode. It immediately opens up Rock Lee versus Shira, trading blows for blows. The only thing is, Shira's much bigger than Rock Lee. He's a bigger, muscular guy, so he's just knocking Rock Lee around like a rag doll, and I especially love the fact that he's actually taking a page from the Hyuga notebook. He's actually hitting all of Rock Lee's pressure points during his attacks, which is not allowing him to use his 8 inner gates. He ends up throwing him down a mountain and is getting ready to finish him off with his silent owl techniques. He actually covers his entire body with these chakra feathers, which actually make him appear to be completely silent, which is a really big problem for taijutsu users. That's when we finally get this extended flashback training sequence with Guy Sensei, which is honestly kind of cool because you get to see some fighting choreography between Rock Lee and Guy, but the sequence is basically there just to show that Rock Lee should be able to think at least 100 moves ahead of his opponent, but actually that's just a trick. He's actually supposed to be able to lead his opponents into his attacks and sort of counter his abilities so that he can attack back. This is very standard stuff. If you've ever played a fighting game, that's basically the rules. You always try to think a couple steps ahead of your fighter so that way you can get in the perfect move, and that's exactly what's going on in this week's episode. But when we finally cut back to the battle, things get really interesting because Shira wants to see Rock Lee at his full 100% power, so he decides to deactivate the chakra points on his body, allowing Rock Lee to open up his 8 inner gates, and then that's when Shira starts to pump himself up with his own version of it, which involves breathing and increasing his lung capacity, and he turns all red just like Rock Lee, his eyes go white, and his chakra is bright and yellow, and that's when we get the best part of the episode where they just go all Dragon Ball Z style on each other, flying through the air with great fighting choreography, slamming each other into the ground, and frankly, it's really impressive. The only thing that sucks about the battle is that it sort of ends because of a technicality, because Shira has these wounds that end up getting opened up, and Rock Lee does not want to fight against him anymore. However, they now have a profound respect for each other. The scene is also really funny because Rock Lee tries to give him one of Guy Sensei's jumpsuits, which just seeing Tenten's reaction to that is really damn funny. But something that I also really loved is at the very end of the episode, we get to see that Gaara is keeping tabs on the battlefield, and they learn that Fu's 2 attendants are actually Jonin, so he decides to look in on the battlefield. And I like how he has this, like, big map of the entire Chunin exam, and he's using his third eye ability, where the sand eye comes out, and what's really interesting is that Fu immediately notices it, and just pops it, and then it just evaporates into a dust of sand, and that's when Gaara looks up some information about Fu, and realizes that she is a Jinchuriki. I'd love to see a confrontation between Gaara, Shukaku, Fu, and Chomei. I think that would be incredible. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden? It was manly, my friends, and it was just plain awesome. The battle between Rock Lee and Shira was pretty damn entertaining, as was this episode. Now, it was not perfect. The animation and the artwork could have looked better at times. There were moments where, frankly, it just looked completely out of whack. And then there were moments where it looked completely badass, especially the moments where they both opened up their inner 8 chakra gates and just started going crazy. That was definitely the highlight of the episode. That and seeing Tenten's reaction to Rock Lee bringing out the jumpsuit at the very end. But still, I really liked this episode a lot. I really like the character of Shira. I think he's really awesome. I wish they could have gotten a little bit more into his whole owl ability, which I think is actually really clever, and I like how they tied that into that very first scene from the Chunin exams, where you had Rock Lee who was fighting against the guy with the gauntlet. Just, they're bringing it total full circle with this whole Chunin exam and fighting against ninja who have these weird sound abilities, and that's what was really interesting about this episode. That and just the fact that it was just a full-on hand-to-hand combat style episode, which you really don't see too much in Naruto anymore, because at this point in the story, everybody's just got such crazy and insane powers. But the other thing that I really loved about this episode is that it focused on Rock Lee, and Rock Lee is awesome. He's definitely one of the most popular Naruto characters. He's had his own spin-off series, and this is sort of like his big final moment in the sun, so to speak. This isn't going to be the end of Rock Lee, but this is sort of like an opportunity to do something really cool with the character, and that's what I really love about this whole, like, Chunin exam overall, is that not only are they bringing in these new interesting side characters from other villages, but they're giving us an excuse to use all of the side characters from Konoha. Now, I know a lot of people have been saying that they've been focusing way too much on Neji and his team, but get excited because in next week's episode, Hinata, Kiba, and Shino are going to be fighting against the Hidden Grass Ninja, another group of very distinctive ninja. There's the guy with the pompadour, the kid with the weird freaking claws on his hand, and let's not forget the big old sweaty chubby guy. It's going to be a really intense episode, I think, and maybe played for laughs a little bit, you know, because the whole Hidden Grass team, they just seem like they're pretty damn funny in general. And still, I'd like to see a confrontation between Gaara and Fu. I think that would be really awesome. But this week's episode was just all about the action, and frankly, it was pretty entertaining. It was a little slow in some spots. The whole guy explanation thing about going through and trying to remember what's your 100th move going to be and just leading your opponent into battle, you know, that's sort of just standard stuff that I've seen in a lot of other series, and frankly, it just seems like the standard for any sort of fighting in general, so I don't really feel that it was needed. Despite that, there was enough action in this week's episode to get any Naruto fan excited. The animation, artwork, decent at times, but not a perfect episode, but one that I think is really a great highlight for Rock, the OG Lee. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. Almost a perfect episode. If they'd have just gotten a better team to work on it, I think this could have been one of the most memorable action episodes of the entire series, and yet it still happens to be. It's still a really entertaining episode that you should definitely check out if you've been following the Naruto anime series, or if you're a fan of the Naruto manga series. Check it out, guys. Good stuff. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and like the video. And please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Naruto Shippuden. What did you think of the battle between Rock Lee and Shira? Did it live up to your expectations? What do you want to see from the rest of the Chunin exams and the finale of the Naruto anime series? Remember, guys, to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, follow us on social media like Facebook and Twitter, and check out our brand new podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast. There will be a link for that in the description box below and at the very end of this video. So thank you guys for watching. Super Kami Guru 9000, out.